Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman has been a polarizing prospect, which makes it no surprise that the Bills drafted him with the 33rd pick of the NFL draft. Coleman grew up in Opelousas, Louisiana, one of the most difficult areas to grow up in Louisiana. He decided to challenge himself by getting away from the South by committing to Michigan State, a university that was appealing because of the ability to play football and basketball. But he also wanted to play for wide receiver coach Courtney Hawkins, who had played 9 years in the NFL. According to Coleman, he wanted to learn the technique and skills to make him a complete receiver, not just a big, tall target who knew how to high point the football. Coleman finished his Spartan career with 65 receptions for 848 yards and 8 touchdowns, with a 2.09 yards per route run average over a 2-year span. But his plan was always to return to the South to play. Having seen what Florida State was building with quarterback Jordan Travis, defensive end Jared Verse, and running back Trey Benson, Coleman entered the portal for the 2023 season. Analytically, his season wasn't as successful as his Spartan days. He finished the season with 50 receptions for 658 yards and a booming 11 touchdowns, but only averaged 1.83 yards per route run. It's Coleman's analytics like yards per route run, expected points added, and separation created that scares off analysts like myself. Then you turn on the tape, and you see some of the context, good and bad. And it's this context that the Bills used to draft Coleman with a premium pick. So let's dive into Coleman's film to flesh out the context and traits that the Bills are banking on over the next few years from the 20-year-old prospect. Let's start off with his impact in the run game. He will make a major impact in the run game thanks to his blocking, maybe even more so than Gabe Davis did over his time in Buffalo. We assume offensive coordinator Joe Brady and offensive line coach Aaron Cromer are going to carry over their run philosophy from last season. The Bills ran the ball 51.8% of the time from Week 11 through the divisional round, the second highest percentage in the league over that time span. And they had the third highest run success rate at 44.5%. Coleman's size of 6'3 1/4, 213 pounds, and 32 1/8 inch arm length help him create daylight for his running backs. But it truly starts out with his mentality. At times, he is a bully, a dog, looking to alpha whoever is across from him. He lets them know it's going to be a brawl on every play. It kind of reminds me of Steelers wide receiver George Pickens. He'll lull a defender to sleep, and then pow, he delivers a blow and knocks a defender to the turf. Aside from the pop-on contact, his length, positional leverage, and core allow him to execute push cracks on defenders so that the running back can find daylight. But he is also a plus blocker thanks to his ability to calculate angles to the defender so that he can lock in positional leverage for the ball carrier. He seals in the position, locks on, and then shows a unique ability to strain and continuously adjust his position by moving his feet and body with the defender's movements, much like you see on this long touchdown by Trey Benson. On this play, the Seminoles are running a power G concept into the short side of the field. I believe Coleman was initially responsible for the down safety, but the corner remained a forced player, so Coleman picked him up. He latches on to seal the edge, but then watch him play with a high playside hand and a low backside hand to maintain the torque needed to wall off the defender. But then we see the strain process, as the defender is trying to fight through the block by using his leverage, strength, and positioning. Creating that strain, Coleman fights it. He continuously adapts to the strain by maintaining his leverage with his hands, core, and body, in conjunction with his feet. He runs his feet during the strain process to maintain positional and physical leverage of the block, to help spring Benson for the touchdown. Tremendous stuff by the wide receiver. But let's be honest, it's a passing league, and that is when Coleman's game is polarizing. And the discussion begins with creating separation or getting open. Now, there are a multitude of ways to get open, aside from scheme itself. To oversimplify it, players can get open thanks to their speed. Their suddenness or speed can create distance from the nearest defender. Some guys use their size, strength, and physicality to create that distance from the defender. Now, keep in mind, whether you are using speed or physicality, they can be used at different levels of a route. They can be used during the release phase, so when the receiver bursts off the line of scrimmage, the drive phase, once the receiver gets into his route stem and is working downfield, the break phase, so that moment at the top of the route when the break is coming, and finally, the catch phase, as the ball is en route to the receiver. Coleman doesn't routinely uncover with speed or suddenness. For Coleman, it's all about his physicality and strength. We see it manifest the most during the drive phase, the segment of a route where the receiver is now working vertically downfield prior to the break. Once Coleman gets going, he easily works through the collision point with a defensive back. That moment when a DB wants to get his hands on the receiver and get into phase. On this play against LSU, Coleman bends the route inside, then back outside as he closes the cushion. He is working to the post, and as he breaks, the defender gets his hands on Coleman, but he fights right through it. More separation would have been created with a better throw, but the QB threw the receiver more vertically rather than to the post. But Coleman adjusted his line, tracked the ball, and was able to shield the ball from the defender as the pass dropped in. On this rep against Michigan, the defensive back is in man coverage and pressed up on Coleman. Post-snap, the corner motor mirrors out to choke the route by getting chest to chest. Coleman creates separation with his body, force, and length. He doesn't extend his arm and blatantly push off, but you see the separation he created at the top of the route. He catches the ball and quickly transitions into a runner to create a chunk play on third down. These are the type of things Coleman will need to bring to the Bills if he's going to be an X receiver, like Brandon Beane said. When you are isolated on the backside of a formation on third down, with safety help over the top, can you consistently win? Here's one of my favorite routes from Coleman from his time at FSU. Initially, he bends it outside, then attacks the inside shoulder of the corner. The corner gets his hands on him, takes outside leverage with the safety helping inside. As soon as he does, Coleman alphas him and breaks to the corner on this smash concept. Creating separation and getting open takes on many forms. His frame, strength, and focus make him a reliable target for Josh Allen. Over the last 4 years, the Bills have dropped 139 passes, the third most. Their 5.1% drop rate is the 9th highest over that same span. In 2023 alone, that rate rose to 5.3%, the 5th most. Coleman has only dropped 5 passes on 184 targets, a 4.2% drop rate. The Louisiana native can withstand the punishment that receivers endure at the catch point, thanks to his size and hands. He routinely uses those traits to keep defenders at bay or to shield the ball from the defender, almost boxing out as the ball arrives. And those traits pair very well with his focus or concentration when we are talking down the field. His contested catch ability is where he has always hung his hat, but it is very polarizing. But let's remember, contested catches aren't just 50-50 balls down the field. Contested catch situations can be in the short and intermediate areas as well. A slant route can be contested. A 12-yard dig route on 3rd and 8 can be challenged and marked as a contested catch. But in Coleman's case, his contested catches as of late have been 50-50 balls down the field. Acrobatic catches highlighting that basketball background down the field. But in 2023, Coleman registered a 33.3% contested catch rate. He reeled in 10 out of 30 contested catches, which is far below average. In his most productive season at Michigan State, he was much better. In 2022, he registered a 62.5% contested catch rate, but the sample size was much lower. He only tallied 16 contested catch attempts, to which he hauled in 10 receptions. When it comes to his contested catch ability, I think it's a tad overstated on both ends of the spectrum, until you seek out the context. Over the last 2 years, his contested catch rate is 47.5%, which is pretty good. It's fair to say last season's 33.3% was low, and that the injury to his starting quarterback Jordan Travis played a major part, but so did the scheme. The Seminoles relied on receivers Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman to win, and win frequently outside by playing big. They did that to help open up the middle of the field for others. After Florida State beat Duke, the Blue Devils head coach Mike Elko profiled the Seminoles offense by saying, quote, "Certainly you go into the game and you see what Keon Coleman is doing and what Johnny Wilson's doing and what their skilled kids are doing on the outside. And that certainly draws a lot of attention." That role of playing and winning big outside the numbers was part of the offensive philosophy. So while not all contested catch situations are jump ball situations, a lot of those contested catch situations in Tallahassee came on 50-50 balls down the field. And a majority were incomplete, but not necessarily for the lack of ability in Coleman's sake. Defenses knew this tendency. Players knew this tendency, which is why you saw so many get broken up. Add in the QB struggles to place the ball in a location to give Coleman a chance, and you have a subpar contested catch rate in 2023. I think Coleman's route tree and targeted locations on the field were more varied at Michigan State. At Michigan State, you saw Coleman get more targets inside the numbers over the middle of the field as opposed to his 2023 season with the Seminoles. But in the end, Coleman's ability to be successful in contested catch situations, especially down the field, is real, and it's where he will likely win early in his career. In my opinion, guys who are separators with speed or route running mesh best with Allen, because Allen likes to see his guys flash open. That's what worries me about the fit of Coleman. Coleman will need to clean up some of his footwork and breaks at the next level because he's inefficient in this area. This will allow defenders to read a break coming or disrupt his route stem. There are just too many instances where Coleman doesn't have a clean route stem planned, and when the defender chokes the route, Coleman will lack a counter and just bulldoze a defender. And sometimes that'll draw a flag, and at other times, the quarterback will just move on in his progressions. We haven't seen Coleman win consistently with his speed or suddenness. Does he play faster than 4.61? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean he is running by guys or creating separation consistently thanks to the absolute element of speed. Playing faster than 4.61 is what we call play speed in the scouting community. Play speed is time speed, how fast or sudden you are, plus mental processing. And that is what Brandon Beane is describing. Coleman is young. He's not even 21. And right now, his play speed is very good. Specifically, if we are talking about those moments at the catch point. We saw this play out at the gauntlet drill at the NFL Scouting Combine. His play speed showed out by running 20.36 miles per hour in a tight line, the top speed in that drill. But that really shows how confident he is in his ability to track and catch the ball while playing full speed. There's no hitch in his giddy-up, which shows out on these screen plays. He is confident at adjusting to these rocket shots, which sometimes may be inaccurate. He smoothly catches the ball while processing blocks out ahead of him. The transition into a runner from a receiver is rather quick, and it's that processing that helps him play faster. He's a step ahead from the shoulders up. He also displays some twitchiness, especially short area lateral cuts that can cause defenders to not be in good tackling position. These are also reasons why the Seminoles used him as a punt returner. He has decent field vision and reactive athleticism to find a crease for extra yardage. His former head coach Mike Norvell said there was an opportunity to use him as a punt returner, and that Coleman is somebody that wants to make an impact. He added, "I love seeing every time he gets the ball in his hand. That's another opportunity to impact it." In that gray area of a pitch and catch, when the ball's in the air, Coleman shines. He's a step ahead because he puts his body in an advantageous running position post-catch and doesn't fight the ball. He simply adjusts his hands and body and is already processing his next move, which is why there may be some more meat on the bone when it comes to yards after the catch. When it comes to these screens, placement is crucial, and we all know Allen is inconsistent. Having another receiver that can adjust to the ball and gain positive yardage on these plays that are essentially an extension of the run game will be an added benefit. Watch how Coleman climbs the ladder to catch the heat-seeking missile, but as he is airborne, he's already processing the defenders who will be in pursuit. The force defender is taking a hard inside line to Coleman, so as soon as Coleman lands, he accelerates upfield to split two defenders. But then, he makes another couple of cuts against the grain to turn this third and short RPO screen into a first down. Exactly the sort of play the Bills run routinely when they have a numbers or leverage advantage outside. I do think using Coleman in ways that FSU did to help create fear and gravity on the boundary can be immensely beneficial to the Bills' offense. It should open up things underneath and over the middle for Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, and even James Cook. And maybe the Bills saw how Allen has struggled down the field as of late and are looking to evolve by adding a different way to win down the field. Allen's completion percentage and explosive plays per dropback in 2023 have continually dipped. Maybe Coleman's hands, tracking, and above the rim mentality will help Allen be more efficient when they do take those shots down the field. Maybe rather than having Allen drop a pin and throw it to a spot and allowing the receiver to run up under it, Allen can now throw it flatter with more velocity, which allows him to have more control. And that'll give Coleman a shot to bring the ball down. Regardless, while I worry about how Allen and Coleman will ultimately mesh in the short and intermediate areas early on, you can see the traits that Beane fell in love with. Things that may not always show up in the analytics consistently, but flash on film. Bean and his personnel are taking a risk. In my opinion, they didn't quite balance out the analytics in film. They are banking on their organization's ability to develop the young buck into their future X wide receiver. Only time will tell if that occurs.